On one fateful brisk evening, the full moon shines in the sky and a lone boat sails across a stretch of water towards land. Elsewhere on this land is a man in wicker clothing to shield himself from the heavy rain. He's angry that he has to be on scout duty on a day like this. That's when he spots some old man sitting on the floor randomly, as if waiting for something. He demands that the old man reveal himself. The old man says nothing. With his eyes closed and hands together, a light glow is coming from him. If the old man is homeless, the scout tells him to go somewhere else, raising a sword to his throat. Finally, he's coming, says the old man, warning the scout to leave or else he will get caught up in their fight and die. The scout thinks this oldie is insane, until he starts moving. Red and black energy surrounds him and he assumes a fighting stance, clearly not messing around. The boat we saw earlier washes up to shore, with the old man's opponent on board, a muscular man with long flowing red hair. Before the boat even reaches land, the redhead jumps off the side with a straight face, placing his foot upon the water. He doesn't sink and instead is able to walk across the water like the Lord himself. With a sword in hand, he means business. The energy radiating from the old man has formed itself into a giant being in the sky. The old man, whose name is Shun Hyun, gives the scout one last warning. This is his last chance to get as far away as he can. The scout's face drops when he turns to his right, seeing the redhead arriving on the scene. A powerful man whom he recognizes. Above Shun Hyun remains the divine being created by his energy, whereas the redhead's energy has morphed into something more sinister, a blob of black mass with a purple glow. Without a word being uttered, the fight is underway. Shun Hyun spins rapidly until a whirlwind is created, which he then thrusts forwards with his hand. It targets the redhead who defends himself, redirecting the energy and hurling it back at Shun Hyun with double the strength. The scout cowers in fear at the sheer power he is witnessing as Shun Hyun attempts to block this strike. He lifts it into the sky to protect the scout behind him, who is kneeling down and covering his head while his hat is blown off. The redhead's attack is dealt with, pushed away in all directions and starting to fade. The scout has his eyes closed tight until he gets the courage to open them again, seeing someone's entire arm and hand lying in the grass before him. It is revealed to be Shun Hyun's hand. He turns around panting heavily. This is why he told the scout to run away. He should go now, because this will probably be his last chance. The scout is speechless at how calm the old guy looks after just losing an arm. Shun Hyun smiles, amused that the scout seems to be worried about him when he had a sword to his neck moments ago. The redhead speaks up, finding it pathetic that Shun Hyun gave his arm trying to defend a person he just met. He can also tell that the old man is taking it easy, demanding that he shows him his true power. It's just as Shun Hyun expected. The redhead is able to sense the inner power of others, just like he is. He decides to stop hiding his true power. He powers up like a battery, and the divine being in the sky grows larger and larger, towering over the dark entity. Each with their own auras, they prepare to continue their fight, with Shun Hyun attacking first by pouncing forwards. Jumping high into the air, he summons many giant hands that reach ahead, trying to overwhelm the redhead, who finds this fun, gripping his sword in preparation to defend himself against the hands. He slashes at them while they try to grab him, stating that there is no way this kind of trick is going to work on him. The scout is still here, watching the fight in awe. He sees the divine being in the sky kneeling down with its palm facing the earth. Shun Hyun guides this palm to the earth until it crashes onto the ground, crushing the redhead like a bug. The old guy is exhausted, and when the palm is lifted off the floor, it leaves a giant crater, with the redhead nowhere to be seen. The watching scout is amazed, thinking such a thing was impossible. He won, against a guy even Suro's Dragon King couldn't beat. It turns out the fight isn't over yet though, and the redhead appears out of nowhere. There's no way he was going to let this fun end so soon. Shun Hyun is caught off guard. When the redhead swings his sword, he attempts to block it with his powers. However, the redhead is strong, pushing through and slicing Shun Hyun's other arm off, leaving him with two stubs that are bleeding badly. Using his immense power, Shun Hyun is able to keep fighting, summoning entirely new arms that he can control. Using these new arms, he swipes forward at the redhead, who leans backwards swiftly to avoid getting hit. He tells the old man that if he is going to use that technique, then he may as well just use a sword to fight, as it would be better. Shun Hyun smiles cheekily. Never once did he say he wasn't going to use a sword. The redhead looks down at his chest to see that he has been cut by something, and it is revealed that Shun Hyun has also summoned a sword to use along with those arms. A sword made out of inner power. The redhead seems impressed by this, raising his real sword as the two fight some more. The rain keeps pouring and the night comes to an end, yet their duel hasn't finished yet. After 80 whole rounds, the scout is still watching closely from behind a rock. He thinks the fight should be over soon and considers running away now. However, he will never be able to see anything amazing like this again in his whole life. Shun Hyan is completely exhausted, with many of his limbs having been cut off and regenerated with inner power. He asks the redhead what he is planning to do after this fight. Is he not scared of Mount Ha? The redhead claims not to care about any of that, and if the old guy doesn't have any more energy to go on, he says he will show his respect one last time by ending this duel quickly. Shun Hyan asks that he wait a moment while he removes a piece of cloth from his body, the only cloth he bought to give to his disciple. He throws it to the ground. With the sword created by inner energy in his hands, he resumes the fight, telling the redhead to come on in. In the sky, the dark entity is now much bigger than the divine being, signifying the energy that each of the fighters have left in them. The fight is mirrored on the sky and ground. When the redhead swings his sword, the dark entity does the same. Blood splatters over the redhead after the final blow is dealt, and the spectating scout's expression turns to horror. The old man has a gaping hole in his chest. You can see straight through it like a keyhole. He falls to the floor and the epic fight concludes. With his last breaths, he turns his head to face the west and a single tear rolls down his face while he thinks about his life. He's happy that he was able to meet such a lucky disciple, a young boy named Peng, who he trained in the ways of inner power. He's worried that no one will take care of his disciple in Mount Ha now that he is leaving this earth. When Peng hears about his death, Shun Hyan hopes that he isn't sad for too long and continues his training. And if he ever finds out the reason he had to die, he hopes that he doesn't come to hate Mount Ha. Years later, Peng is walking along with a bunch of children, who ask him why he isn't attending the martial arts competition, thinking he isn't going because he is weak. Peng, our main character, tells the kids not to ask such questions. Then he turns his head to the side, noticing someone riding past on a white horse. This is the Mount Ha leader, Master Chan. It's not just Peng, and others watch him ride past, seeing that it must finally be time for the martial arts competition again. Behind Master Chan are competitors, who the people assume must have been eating special porridge for days to prepare for this. Peng shows his respect by lowering his head as the master and the competitors ride by. Someone recognizes him and calls his name, asking where he is heading to now with that stuff on his back. Peng looks up to see that it is his senior, Han. Han scolds our main character for being too stubborn. It's already been a long time since his master Shun Hyan passed away. He should stop training that inner power stuff and come train with Master Chan instead. Peng smiles, saying that he isn't interested. He still wants to train inner power and follow in Shun Hyan's footsteps. Still, he hopes Han has a nice trip to the martial arts competition while he stays and looks out for Mount Ha. Han finds it amusing for Peng to say he will protect Mount Ha when he is still so young. Plus, there have been rumors of weird things appearing at night near Mount Ha. Han rides away, telling Peng not to be foolish. He shouldn't try to protect anything and should just stay safe with the kids. Peng timidly agrees and starts walking again. Two other guys on horseback give him weird looks, wondering who he is and why Han was talking to him. One of them realizes it is Peng, the former disciple of the weird Master Shun Hyan. The guys mock Shun Hyan, calling him a scammer who always rambled about inner power and never used the sword. They also think he died a dishonorable death. Peng can hear them insulting his deceased master and insulting his way of martial arts. He keeps walking, doing his best to ignore them. As everyone travels through the town, a foul stench can be smelled, prompting everyone to cover their noses in disgust. The smell is coming from coffins that are being loaded into the back of a carriage, something the competitors consider unlucky to see on the day of the martial arts competition. Peng notices a young woman sitting near the coffins and crying her eyes out. Upon looking at her, an unusual figure appears behind her head, golden with a creepy smile. Peng thinks he could be hallucinating, wondering what he is seeing. However, he is disturbed by the children who tell him to hurry up. If they don't go now, they are going to be late. The scene cuts to a little later when the sun is setting. Two guards are standing outside the entrance to the Mount Ha sect. The attention of the guards is grabbed when a carriage pulls up to the entrance, carrying coffins on the back, similar to the ones we saw earlier. A woman appears along with the carriage, asking if this is the entrance to the Mount Ha sect. The guards tell this woman to leave as she doesn't have a ticket to enter. Plus, it is incredibly rude to bring coffins to a place like this. The woman interrupts the guard, claiming that she does actually have a ticket to enter. She removes the long white cloak hiding her body. She reveals herself to be some sort of assassin, with a villainous smirk, purple armor, and weapons at her side. The guard's expression quickly changes to fear. Meanwhile, Peng is attempting to meditate but is struggling. For some reason, he is able to sense an evil and murderous intent from far away. He looks out the window, wondering why he could be finding it difficult to focus on his chi. perhaps because of his hallucination earlier, or maybe there really is something happening. Outside his window, Peng sees a red figure on the floor, something which he describes as a murderous aura. With this, he immediately recognizes that something isn't right. There really is a sense of danger that he is feeling far away. Out in the distance in the sky are more of these murderous auras, with red glowing eyes. Peng decides to check it out. Grabbing his weapon, he exits his place and runs into the night, pouncing from mountain to mountain in the direction he feels troubled by, eventually reaching the danger, thinking this is impossible. Manhwa sect has been attacked and is up in flames. Emergency bells are rung and soldiers line up on the streets ready to defend their home. Though they appear frightened, an older guy starts cutting down the enemies, slashing through 5 enemies within the span of a couple seconds. With his sword coated in blood, he calls to the other to draw their swords and protect the young disciples here. Claiming that there is no such thing as fear for the Manhwa disciples, he urges them to follow him into battle. This is Jae-gak, an elder of the Manhwa sect. The disciples appear terrified, and it is no surprise as to why. Enemies in black with their faces covered have raided the Manhwa sect, running at them with weapons. The younger disciples are especially scared and are closing their eyes. Dropping some wisdom and knowledge mid-battle, Jae-gak tells them to never take their eyes off of the enemy. He cuts one of them down but notices much more coming. They are being relentlessly attacked by wicked individuals. Jae-gak drops more wisdom, reminding the young disciples of the 7th rule. The Manhwa sect never retreats from any battle. He tells them not to be surprised by the number of enemies, as he can handle these guys all by himself. At this moment, he is ambushed by a big shirtless dude, who comes as if out of the sky swinging his weapon. Jae-gak manages to dodge at the last second as the shirtless dude's attack cracks the concrete floor. It's clear that he is very fast. Jae-gak orders everyone to get behind him and readies himself to fight, noticing that the shirtless guy seems different to the other enemies, and he has a chain around his neck. He seems to be much stronger than the others, and Jae-gak can't sense his energy at all. Jae-gak also knows that he doesn't have a lot of time. The longer this attack continues, the more of his disciples that will die. He needs to end this quickly, charging forwards towards the shirtless guy at full speed. Surprising Jae-gak, the guy is able to dodge his attack, immediately coming in with a counter-attack using his chain. Jae-gak is able to block it with his sword, though he can't believe someone with lower abilities is able to fight in such a manner. The shirtless guy lands a knee strike on the elder, causing him to bleed out the mouth and fall to the floor. It looks bad until it is revealed that Jae-gak was just pretending to be injured. When the shirtless guy gets close, Jae-gak stabs him in the chest to end the fight. Purple energy leaves the guy's body as he dies. With his death, the elder thinks the rest of these insignificant pests will be dealt with quickly. However, someone is wearing a special ring with 2 balls attached to it. Using this, they summon 4 more shirtless men to surround the elder on the ground. It is revealed that the person with the ring is the woman that approached the entrance earlier. She's impressed that Jae-gak managed to take that guy out. But he was just one guy, and all the disciples are dying in large numbers. Jae-gak yells up to this woman, asking if she is the leader of all this and what reason does she have for attacking them. The woman replies that she is the leader, at least for now. She drops to the floor, explaining that she wants to know the location of the 4 directional divine swords. Meanwhile, Peng has arrived on the scene, sprinting up the steps leading to the entrance of the Manhwa sect. Upon entering, he comes to a stop, seeing the number of people that have been taken out. Their bodies spread across the floor. He notices movement of people still alive, but becomes disappointed upon seeing it is the enemy. He can feel the killing intent of these enemies. They approach him with their black uniforms, and he can tell this is very dangerous. This is the feeling of a life or death battle, one where one either kills or gets killed. Peng starts to worry that his martial arts technique, known as Jahajingi, won't work in actual combat. He gets a grip, deciding not to think unnecessary thoughts. The moment you think you're at a disadvantage, you're as good as dead. He goes straight into his 3-step attack, unleashing his Jahajingi. When the enemies try to attack Peng, he no longer feels the fear that he did previously. Everything is much more peaceful and their movements seem slow, as if they are in water. The first enemy is coming from his left and swinging towards his leg. The second has his sword aiming for Peng's right leg. And the final enemy is coming for a mid-air attack from behind. Peng is able to read every single one of their attacks and knows exactly what the 3 of them are going to do. The first 2 he deals with by jumping and swinging his body horizontally, placing himself perfectly between the guy aiming for his head and the one aiming for his foot. When he lands, he deals with the 3rd enemy, spinning around and using a Plum Blossom 3 Ridges sword attack. It lands right on target, knocking the 3rd and final enemy backwards. Peng smiles, realizing that Jahajingi works, even in actual combat. Jahajingi is a term from Korean martial arts that refers to a state of effortless concentration and focus. It is a state in which the practitioner is completely present in the moment and is not thinking about anything else. This state of mind allows the practitioner to move and react with incredible speed and precision. Back with the woman and the elder Jae-gak. She uses her balls to control the shirtless men, getting them to target the young disciples. Jae-gak knows he is in trouble here, with little options he can do. The evil woman asks him the same question again. Where are the 4 divine swords? Jae-gak asks her what she is going to do with these swords if he tells her where to find them. They aren't things that can be used recklessly by the untrained. The woman tells the elder to get his facts straight. Just because the Manhwa sect are unable to use the swords doesn't mean no one else can. They shouldn't keep them locked away from everyone else. Jae-gak gets angry and grabs his sword, forgetting that the evil woman has his young disciples surrounded. She has heard that there is not a person in Manhwa that can use the 4 divine swords, and that is why they are kept locked away. Jae-gak accuses her of spewing out false allegations. There's no way he is going to fall for her tricks. She quickly loses interest in this back and forth, getting bored. She gets to the point threatening to destroy Manhwa, killing everyone and just searching the entire place herself until she discovers them. The shirtless men lunge at the young disciples, until Jae-gak yells out for her to stop. Defeated, he reveals the location to her, inside the 4 walls in the palace grounds. This is frustrating, and he will have to let go of his title for telling her that. But it is worth it if it means the young disciples get to keep their lives. The evil woman knew he would tell her eventually. He really is a true master that cares about his disciples. However, her ghouls are talking to her, and they want to see more blood, so she needs to satisfy them. Even though she said she would spare the disciples if he told her, she acts like she doesn't remember saying that. She swings her weapon playfully, thinking it's only right for her to thank him properly for giving her the location of the swords so easily like that. Hung is still dealing with the 3 enemies that return to their feet after getting their butt whooped by his Jahajingi. They realize they underestimated him and decide to take this fight seriously, telling Pung that he was just lucky up until now. But that luck has just run out. One of them leaps forward and deals an attack, which Pung blocks with his stick weapon. Of course it snaps in 2. I don't know what bro was expecting to happen, using a wooden sword in a life or death fight. With his weapon broke, he dashes backwards, attempting to get away from the enemies. They chase him down, however, demanding to know how long he is going to keep running away from them like this. Pung narrowly dodges the next sword that comes swinging at his face. As expected, a real fight is much different from training. It feels as though the power and speed of the attacks have increased several times. He thinks about what he should do. This could be the end for him. Then his eye glows and he notices something on the enemies. His gaze is drawn to the weak points on their bodies. He can see them clearly. He was never able to see them when he used to train with his brothers, yet for some reason he is able to see them now. A flashback shows Pung angry and upset, sitting on a rock because he lost again during sparring. He only ever learns breathing techniques so all the other kids beat him. Master Shun Hyan just smiles, asks Pung if winning and losing is really that important to him. These memories make Pung question whether he has been able to see the weaknesses of his enemies this whole time. Maybe the only reason he couldn't see the weak points of his brothers he trained with is because martial art disciples are too full of weakness. They were too young and so had so many weaknesses he struggled to identify them. Yet these enemies are much more skilled in martial arts, having fewer weak points. Therefore it is easier for Pung to identify them. He tests his theory by hitting one of the enemies in these spots. It works, but it is not fatal because his wooden sword is too short. He decides it's time to get rid of his broken sword. Coming to a halt, he turns around and uses a mysterious palm skill, tossing the wooden sword at one of the enemies who manages to block it no problem. However, while he is distracted, Pung is able to punch the enemy in the stomach. With no weapon left, Pung is forced to use his hands and legs for the remainder of this battle. He calculates the next enemy is 5 steps away, with his weak point being at the bottom right of his leg. With precision, Pung strikes the enemy in this place using a well-timed kick. That was the 3rd and final enemy that he has dealt with now. He actually did it, and is starting to realize the strength of inner power. As he thought, Master Shun Hyan's lessons weren't for nothing. Despite what others say, he knows that Shun Hyan was an amazing master. His melancholy memories are interrupted when he feels more killing intent, an extreme level. He looks at the place it is coming from, where he sees the same red figures that have been haunting him in the sky. He wonders what could be going on there. It's the evil woman and her henchmen who are collecting the 4 divine swords from inside the palace wall. The woman is happy that the 4 swords, imbued with the soul of the Reaper, will finally meet their worthy master. Right on time, another Manhwa sect elder arrives on the scene, named Oh Hang. She's surprised to see him back here so early. She thought he was much further away. Oh-hang isn't a fan of small talk, ordering the woman to step away from the swords. She summons her henchmen ghouls to back her up, saying they recently ate some blood, but she is sure they won't refuse another snack. Getting ready to fight, Oh-hang tells this woman that she is disgusting, endlessly drenched in ghosts and wretchedness. She orders her ghouls to attack Oh-hang, telling him that anything he does to try and defend himself will be a waste of effort in the end. The fight gets underway with Peng sprinting towards the palace. All the killing intent is focused there. He leaps over the high wall and gets a clear view of what is happening. Master Oh-hang desperately tries to hold off the ghouls while the evil woman talks about leaving soon. She can feel something powerful heading this way and doesn't want to be here when it arrives. Oh-hang is too overwhelmed to do anything, and so Peng grabs a sword and calls out to him, offering help. Oh-hang doesn't know who he is, but explains they need to protect the Manhwa treasure from the intruders. He needs help distracting these guys even for just a moment. Peng notices the source of all the killing intent. These enemies seem to be on an entirely other level to the ones he fought before. With Oh-hang preoccupied with the ghouls, Peng charges forward. Since he was ordered to defend the treasure, then that is what he is going to do. The concrete cracks beneath his feet as he thrusts his sword forwards, aiming right for one of the ghouls that is carrying two of the swords on its back. The ghoul is able to defend himself pretty easily, smacking our main character in the face with a chain. The evil woman scoffs at that pathetic attempt, calling the Manhwa sect annoying until the very end. Then she notices something out of the corner of her eye. It's Oh-hang, who used Peng's pathetic attack as a distraction. He attempts to take out one of the ghouls, but the ghoul ducks, and instead the attack hits the box on the ghoul's back. With the box broke, the divine sword that was inside falls to the floor, landing right in front of Peng. It glows blue and he stares at it. He had no idea what type of treasure Manhwa had, and is shocked to see a sword. He gets a weird feeling just looking at it. Oh-hang orders him not to touch that sword no matter what. With his current level of inner power, Peng will die within seconds. It's too late though, and Peng didn't listen. After touching the sword, his eyes turn a bright blue and his veins bulge. The energy within the sword wraps itself around his entire body, including his heart. The evil woman watches closely, not believing what she is seeing with her own eyes. Peng is wielding the sword, one of the 4 divine swords, something which should not be possible. The blue glow that was once around the sword is now around him, with markings appearing on his face similar to those on a tiger. The blue light stretches to the heavens, providing light to the palace on such a dark night. He has the sword gripped tightly in both hands, successfully invoking the white tiger divine spirit. The woman is in shock that such a whelp can harness the true power of the White Emperor of the West. She orders her ghouls to take him out immediately. They charge forward and Peng prepares himself for battle, surrounded by energy. When the ghouls throw their chains in his direction, he slices through them like paper, splitting the chains in two. With the ghouls almost within striking distance, Peng jumps into the air, swinging the divine sword overhead. Instead of directly attacking the 3 enemies, he opts to hit the floor with his strike, smashing it and sending a shockwave of energy towards the ghouls. As he hits the floor with his sword, it's so strong that his bones even crack a little. The attack eventually reaches the ghouls, completely obliterating them in a single strike like nothing. Their heads pop off and they hit the ground. The woman can't believe her man-eating spirits were taken out in one blow, and that such a brat could have the audacity to command the power of the divine spirit so casually. The scene zooms out to show the death and destruction caused by the sword. Looking at our main character, Oh-hang can tell something isn't right. He has a strange feeling. He sees Peng charging forward with the sword in hand. Both his arms have snapped and he seems to have lost control of himself, even attacking Oh-hang for no reason. Oh-hang dodges, ordering Peng to put down the sword and regain his senses. His flesh and bones are being dissolved by the white tiger sword, and if he loses consciousness to the divine spirit, then it will be his end. On the outside, Peng has a sinister expression, cocky with his newfound weapon and power. However, on the inside he feels pain and torment, as though his insides are being twisted. It's as if his body is being controlled by someone else, and at this rate he knows he will be consumed. When Peng keeps trying to fight, Oh-hang continues to dash backwards to get away, trying to talk Peng out of his trance. No one can stop the rampaging divine spirit, and it is up to him to wake up on his own. Hearing that Peng doesn't have much control, the evil woman sees this as an opportunity, her only chance to kill him. She sneaks up behind him and goes in for an attack while his back is turned, though he turns around at the last second, startling the woman with his confident gaze. She narrowly avoids his swing and retreats backwards to recompose herself. Having come face to face with the blade, she laughs. It really is one of the 4 divine swords of Manhwa, the white tiger sword. However, no matter how divine the sword is, if it is being wielded by a brat, then there is only so much power it can hold. The woman dashes forward, slashing her dual-wielding weapons at Peng, assuming there are going to be vulnerabilities in his skill that she can exploit. With lightning reflexes, Peng is able to block her attack, sticking his sword between her weapons. Despite failing, the woman has a light smile, retreating back again to avoid getting hit by the white tiger sword. She's impressed that he was able to twist his sword to avoid a fatal blow like that. It was such a quick judgment in a split second. She had intended to go easy, but now she is in a hurry and has changed her mind, thinking that she needs to kill him right now. If she doesn't, then he will for sure become a great obstacle for her later. However, the divine sword is so strong that she doesn't know how she is going to overcome it. She notices him falling to his knees as if in pain. Inside, Peng's vital energy is being drained. He thinks it has something to do with the wounds he has sustained, feeling a strong urge to let go of the sword now. Suddenly, he spits out blood, splattering the stone floor with his red juices. The woman finds this amusing and to be expected. His flow is gradually decreasing. He's clearly not ready to wield the power of the divine spirit. She can tell by looking at his body. It's breaking apart and can't accept the power. Peng looks down at the sword and starts shaking. It's no longer glowing and he can't feel the energy of the sword anymore. The woman can see this, stating that now would be her best time to kill him, though she is interrupted when someone else arrives at the palace, ordering her to stop. This is the master of the Sword of Nothingness. In a red robe with a long ponytail, he goes by the name Yongjin. The evil woman mocks him for showing up so late, calling him old and slow. Yongjin tells her to watch her mouth, calling her an impudent brat. She laughs. No matter how skilled his martial arts are, they aren't good enough to shut her mouth. She orders her 3 remaining ghouls, carrying the 3 remaining swords on their back, to leave, taking the divine swords away from Mount Ha. With the divine swords being stolen from right in front of Yongjin, she asks what he is going to do about it. He ought to get chasing after them with his tail between his legs. Yongjin doesn't care about them leaving though, since they can't even use the swords. It's not a problem. Yongjin calls out to Peng, telling him to throw away the white tiger sword if he cannot handle its power. If he lies there on the floor, he'll only be in the way, or die at the hands of this impertinent woman. The woman feels as though her power is being underestimated here. She readies her weapons, stating that the kid doesn't even qualify as an opponent to her. Yongjin can feel the tremendous pressure of her strength, considering stepping in and not letting Peng die. However, he is visited by a man with a halo, the deity of the plum blossom sword, named Jinan. This deity instructs Yongjin not to aid Peng in his battle before vanishing. There's an uprising coming with a mastermind behind it. He says that a young disciple is struggling with power that he cannot handle. Even if he falls into hardship, Yongjin is not to help him and instead should just watch to see what his fate will be. The evil woman runs at Peng and all of a sudden he starts to glow blue again. The energy of the white tiger sword is returning. His heart is pounding in his chest, which he is gripping tightly, trying not to let it overwhelm him. Yongjin does as the deity Jinan instructed him to, doing nothing and watching to see Peng's fate. A white tiger appears above his head in the sky, and a bright blue light stretches out to the heavens. Peng soon passes out, finding himself as a young boy again. He thinks about how much his body hurts until he hears someone calling out his name. It's his master Shun Hyun, whom he runs over to joyously, bragging about how he was able to wield the divine sword. He actually did it. Shun Hyun retorts, saying that Peng looks shattered. It wasn't him who swung the white tiger sword, but it was the white tiger sword that swung him. Peng knows his master is right, admitting he was foolish, and that he still has a long way to go. Shun Hyun instructs his young disciple that inner power and genuine skill come from strong belief. If you believe you are nothing, then you will become nothing. So Peng should always remember to believe in himself. Master Shun Hyun starts to walk away and Peng calls out to him. He wants to train harder and doesn't want his master to leave like this, though he ends up waking up back in the present. In front of him is Yongjin and another older man. Seeing them gives Peng a warm feeling and at ease, a feeling he hasn't felt since his master left him as a child. Yongjin talks with the older man. The white tiger causes bone and flesh damage. Peng has managed to stay alive even though his energy has been completely exhausted. Currently his condition is stable, neither improving nor worsening. It's hard for Yongjin to believe, but it seems the white tiger sword has acknowledged Peng as its owner. The older man, with a horrific hairline and a long white robe, tells Yongjin to summon the Council of Elders. They need to send this child down the mountain along with the divine sword, the white tiger sword. Is your mind getting clear? It seems like you're gradually waking up. Take it slowly, feel your energy. These are the voices Peng hears while he is in an unconscious state, feeling as if he is floating around in the deep blue ocean, peacefully. Though he doesn't know what this energy is that he feels. He senses something unfamiliar, cold and dull, but it doesn't seem to be disrupting the flow of energy. It's awkward, but at the same time strangely familiar. That's when he realizes that this feeling that is here with him is that of a tiger, a divine white tiger that is now a part of him. Peng starts to open his eyes. The old guy with a horrific hairline is touching his forehead, probably admiring our main character's full head of hair. The old guy's name is Hyojin, and he can see that there is no problem with Peng's energy cultivation. Peng quickly rises and lowers his head as a sign of respect, finding it rude of him to be sleeping like that in the presence of an elder. Hyojin says that it is alright. He already knows Peng's name and that he was a part of the destruction that happened at Mount Ha. He thinks that the strength Peng showed that night was from an external source of energy, different to his internal energy. He asks if he feels any discomfort or anything different than usual in his chest. Peng is very vague, claiming that things are still very confusing to him, but he isn't currently feeling any major discomfort. The energy that flows through the white tiger sword is forbidden to be used. Therefore, there must have been a considerable amount of energy stored inside because of how long it has been locked away. Hyojin is impressed that the sword's energy didn't clash with Peng's internal energy. He assumes the only reason Peng survived was because of his former master's teachings, Master Shun Haiyan. Peng thinks so too. His master taught him many skills relating to inner energy, such as Jahajingi and something called Purple Cloud's True Spirit. This skill involves a purple sunset. It's also a sunset that freezes where gods live, a skill that is different from any other technique taught at Mount Ha. However, Peng knows it's unlikely that it was just his skills that allowed him to use the white tiger sword. There must be another reason that is hard to imagine. Hyojin points out that Peng is a mere apprentice, an apprentice that dared to use forbidden swordsmanship and the secret of the Mount Ha. Hearing these words prompts Peng to fall to his knees, begging for forgiveness for what he did, thinking he is about to be punished. There seems to be a misunderstanding though, and Hyojin isn't trying to punish him. Instead, he is offering him a very important mission. Now that Peng is a wielder of the White Tiger's sword, Hyojin hopes he will help to find the 3 remaining divine weapons that were taken. His mission is to go to the martial arts world to bring back Mount Ha's stolen treasures, the Blue Dragon, the Red Sparrow, and the Supreme String Sword. The day that he is expected to leave is today. Peng can't believe he is given such a mission so casually like this. Without saying anything else, Hyojin leaves, directing Peng towards the exit. He must leave immediately. Here he meets with Yongjin. The mission has already been decided by the council and the sects, which is why he has to leave alone so soon. Yongjin doesn't know how Peng is supposed to collect the 3 divine swords, or why such a young disciple has been burdened with such a heavy load. To help Peng in his quest, Yongjin hands over the white tiger sword inside its box, which Peng puts on his back. If he gets into trouble, the white tiger sword will guide him. As well as this, Peng receives a token of the Mount Ha sect. This token gives him the support of the Xiachen Hall. The token is engraved with the white plum blossom as it is the symbol of the council. If Peng shows the token in any faction or country where the Mount Ha sect is involved, then he will be able to receive support from the Xiachen at any time. Peng is grateful for these gifts to help him. The burden of retrieving the swords is heavy, but it makes sense as he now has the responsibility of wielding the white tiger sword. Yongjin doesn't want Peng going out wearing rags, all torn and dirtied. He hands over a bag of clothes that were kindly prepared by Master. Peng quickly changes and starts crying at the sight of his new clothes that fit him well. He's so upset because he thinks they were a gift from his Master Shun Haiyan. Master Shun Haiyan always looked upon him with pity, but Peng never expected he would ever prepare something like this for him. Now wherever Peng travels, he will be able to feel Shun Haiyan's warmth. That's when Yongjin bursts his bubble. When he said the clothes were a gift from Master, he didn't mean Shun Haiyan. He meant his own master, Hyojin. A flashback shows Master Hyojin working on stitching the clothes together while Peng was unconscious. Yongjin is busy and has stuff he needs to deal with now, but he has high expectations for Peng on his quest. He puts his hand on his shoulder and says goodbye, wishing the kid good luck. And with that, Peng steps out the exit to go off into the world all by himself. The sky is blue and the trees green. Before embarking on his journey, he puts his fist to his palm, lowering his head to everyone. With the white tiger sword in the box on his back, some of the people inside also lower their heads to him, before getting back to doing the work they were doing previously. Peng walks for a while, until the sun starts setting. He walks through dense forests past many trees and wildlife. A squirrel even leaps up onto his shoulder, joining him on his journey. By the time the moon starts rising, he comes across another village. With the full moon in the sky, he travels through it. It's a nice place with people having a good time within the streets. A kind old lady offers Peng a bowl of rice, offering him a place at her inn. He should get adequate rest and hydrate before traveling out of the village again. Peng completely ignores her and doesn't communicate, passing straight through the village and out the other side back into the forest. As he walks out, the old lady worries about our main character. The path he is walking down is one where a wolf often comes out of. With the squirrel still on his shoulder, Peng stops to get some rest and drink some water because he is thirsty. He sits on the ground and drinks from a nearby lake. He's not familiar with crowded places, which is why he didn't want to stay in the inn. Sure, it would have been comfortable for his body, but it would have been uncomfortable for his heart. It looks like he is going to have to spend his first night out in the martial arts world homeless. After taking a sip of water, he notices the squirrel on his shoulder looking frightened about something. He wonders what could be wrong. The full moon is out and wolves begin to emerge from the bushes. Their mouths open, revealing their sharp fangs and wet drool. Their yellow eyes are fixed onto our main character, hoping to get an evening snack. Peng can't believe it, thinking to himself how there could be so many of them. He knows he needs to stay calm. Who knows what will happen if he acts too rashly. The wolves start howling and yapping as they get closer. Peng slowly moves his hand over to the box, trying to bring out the white tiger sword to help. Before he can even get the box fully open, the wolves change expressions, going from threatening to terrified. They whimper, turning around and running back into the bushes where they came from. Peng has no idea why they are running away all of a sudden, not realizing that by opening the box he has summoned a giant white tiger that is drinking out of the water next to him. Peng isn't an idiot and knows it probably had something to do with the white tiger sword. He's about to close the box back up when he hears a voice calling out, thanking him for getting rid of the wolves. He turns around to see a guy with long white hair and a baggy cloak hiding many of his facial features. This guy was also in trouble because of the wolves and is grateful that they have gone, though he asks Peng how he managed to make them leave. Peng starts to worry, trying to hide the box containing the sword and insisting he didn't do anything. He doesn't sense any presence from this guy, and so can tell he isn't an ordinary person. Despite Peng's best efforts to hide it, the guy can see that there is a famous sword behind him. He asks if it is the one that drove away the wolves and if he can see it up close. Before Peng can even tell him no, the guy has swiped the weapon and is getting a good look at it. He recognizes that it is the white tiger sword, known as the supreme one among the 4 divine swords. Peng attempts to grab the sword back viciously, calling the guy rude for stealing someone else's belongings. That sword is not an item to handle recklessly. The guy simply just trips Peng, sending him crashing into the pool of water. He insists that he didn't steal it. It's just that the white tiger sword ended up in his hands. And after all, the one who holds the white tiger sword is the white tiger sword master. Peng insists that he give it back. That is a sword that can take lives and he isn't joking. The guy lets out a light chuckle, now slightly interested in seeing what the sword can do. He runs across the water towards Peng while carrying the weapon, swiping it at his head with precision, not trying to kill him, but instead chopping off a part of his hair. He then knocks all of the water out of the area, revealing the dry ground that lies beneath. Peng is splashed by much of this water as it is pushed out of the way. The guy smiles and invites himself to spend the night with Peng, stating that tonight they are going to be eating fish and creating a fire. Looking around him, Peng can see that the dry ground where the water once was is now littered with fish, easy to catch and for them to eat. When Peng demands to know who this guy is, he decides to tell him, saying he is a supreme disciple of the white tiger sword. Peng assumes that this guy must have been sent by Hyojin. He definitely found it weird for Hyojin to send him out here without a specific plan as a mere novice disciple. It makes sense that he would send a supreme disciple to come and help. Since Peng is only a novice disciple, he respectfully greets his new master, who is a higher rank. This prompts the guy to burst into laughter after being called master. He calls Peng a stupid idiot. To call someone master after they just stole the white tiger sword from him is amusing. The martial arts world is a serious place. From now on, whenever the white tiger sword is seen, hordes of enemies will come rushing to try and take it. The guy wonders if Peng is going to call them all masters too. This world is not an easy place, especially for Peng. The moment he stepped out of Manhwa with the white tiger sword, he became a target for enemies. Enemies both inside and outside of the Manhwa sect. That's just the price he must pay as a wielder of one of the most famous swords of the Manhwa clan. The scene cuts to a large staircase with a big red door. Inside is a man sitting on a throne, with rows of masked soldiers lined up in front of him. This is Chin Wajan, one of the Manhwa clan's sect leaders. He wants the White Tiger sword and is willing to seize it by any means necessary, even if the one who currently possesses it is a disciple of Manhwa. He gives the order to his men to go and retrieve the White Tiger sword. If they are met with any resistance, they have permission to use force. Chin Wajan even tells them that they have permission to kill if they feel that they need to. All he cares about is getting the sword. Part 1 ends here. If you enjoyed and would like to see a part 2, show your support by liking the video and commenting the word sword. Also consider subscribing so you don't miss the next upload. Thank you and take care.